you, Adele.
Well, that's a tough one to follow, goodness. Hello, everyone. And also, your patience today will be appreciated because I'm used to spending my time face down in a body of water rather than in front of a group of people. So thank you in advance. Oh, thank you. So yes, hello. I'm Adele Benson. I'm an ultramarathon swimmer and a content creator, which is sometimes quite embarrassing to talk about. But in my professional life, I'm also the advocacy campaigns manager for the Woodland Trust. So I'm talking about this today, but it's just one aspect of what I do. And I am really happy to be here because it does feel like a homecoming. I've been connected with Toucan Diversity for almost a decade now. And so I'm incredibly proud to be back here again. So yes, I'll just shuffle out of the way for this bit. So going back a few years, I first came across Toucan Diversity when I was a student at the University of Portsmouth, so back in about 2017. And I was involved with the Rotaract Society, and we were offered disability awareness training by Anna Marie down at Gunwharf Quays. And I remember sitting next to Paul during one of the exercises, and as we worked through the tasks, we started talking, and he recognised that I was someone who understood the often invisible barriers faced by people with disabilities. And that meant a lot to me at the time, and it does still now, because what struck me that day was Toucan's unique approach. Their training is delivered by people with disabilities, and also the shock that this wasn't common practice. Nothing about us without us. It isn't just a slogan, it's their whole philosophy, and it's what makes them really special. After that session, I got more involved. I helped to fundraise, I volunteered, I eventually became a trustee for a few years. I even did a skydive, so I've really put my life on the line, I think. And I have so many fond memories of meetings at Halpern House, just being part of something that really felt like we were making a real difference. And then when I moved to Exeter for my master's and then on into full-time work and then living in Bristol, I had to step back. But I've always stayed in touch with Anne-Marie, usually through social media, where she occasionally drops into my inbox with ideas, one of which you'll be hearing about shortly. But yes, I'm here as well to talk about my English Channel swim. So, but before this, I kind of wanted to share how I got there. Because like many people, I started open water swimming casually. I loved just being outdoors. And after the pandemic, I really craved a challenge and meaning outside of full-time work. And I quickly realised I had a natural inclination for endurance. And so over time, my swims got longer and I didn't really stop. So I started seeking out bigger goals, bigger cold water challenges, and the more I pushed myself, the more I realised how much I enjoyed exploring the edge of what's possible for me. But what really drove me isn't just athletic ambition, it was purpose. I've always been someone who wants my challenges to mean something, to have a positive impact beyond myself. And so as my swims became bigger, I started thinking seriously about using them to support organisations I believe in. That combination, endurance and purpose, led me to set my sights on the English Channel. And so in June 2024, it happened. I became an English Channel swimmer. You can see me here. It was a long journey of training, mental and physical preparation, and learning to be incredibly comfortable in discomfort. The channel is very unpredictable, humbling, at times overwhelming, full of jellyfish, but it's also one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. It took me about 15 hours and 13 minutes to do. And in this picture, you can see the end, Cap Greenet. And I was looking at a coastline. What you wouldn't be able to see is like the French coastline that I could see for a number of hours whilst the tide took me sideways to this bit of land. I couldn't see this because I was only breathing to my right, but I had to trust my team and that they were taking me in the right direction. And I was also one of the earliest swims out that year. It might be June, but the water is still incredibly cold. It was 13 degrees when I got in at 3 a.m. And it warmed up to a balmy 15 degrees after the sun rose. And I mentioned jellyfish. I faced plenty on my route, and it was a particular fear of mine going into the swim. Although after about the 20th sting in the first hour, I was able to get a little bit used to it. And because in the English Channel there are a few jellyfish that will sting more than a nettle, for example. So I didn't face anything quite as swim-ending as some of the species that are out there. What you see here is my route. The reason it's slaloms is because of the tide. The whole time for me, I was facing France and didn't know any differently, so I thought I was swimming straight, and I obviously was not. And depending on the tide window, that it can take you quite far out or keep you going fairly straight. But this is the cap, just the sort of outcrop that where you land, and if you miss it, which I almost did, you end up spending a number of hours pushing into Wizant Beach. So I was very lucky to not have to do that. And then this here is the team on the boat who is supporting me. Sorry. You get 2 people who are your pilots who look after the boat. You have 1 person who is your volunteer from the association to make sure that you're following all the rules. But these are the people I picked. So my now fiance, Josh, my swim friend, Ben, who is also an English Channel swimmer, and my friend Lou, who's also an open water swimmer, who I met. And I met these 2 doing a relay around the island of Jersey. There we go. And then, yes, since the English Channel, after the Channel, it was only after the Channel I really got the confidence to really start talking about my swimming and what I do. And what started as a place to document some of the training that I did, and it became a place where I really started to show the reality of ultramarathon open water swimming, the serious parts, but hopefully also some lightness and humour. I never expected the response I received. I had about 200 followers at the beginning of the year. But it's opened doors, created a growing community, and helped me realise I could use my platform to better support causes that matter to me, especially organisations like Toucan. A couple of the swims I've done this year as well. So in 2025, I decided to maybe do a few that were shorter than the English Channel just to keep myself fresh for bigger challenges and have some fun. So this is after a 15-kilometre swim along Lake Annecy on the border between France and Switzerland, which was a gorgeous swim, bordered by medieval castles, and it was one of the most beautiful swims I've done, with some of the cleanest water too, at a toasty 24 degrees, also one of the hottest swims I've done outside of a pool. These are my coaches here, Karen and Dave, who hired the boat to take me across. But this was also in September. I swam Gdynia to Hell on the Polish coast. It was an 18-kilometre swim in the Baltic Sea, which was, contrary to name, incredibly enjoyable. Plenty of moon jellyfish to keep me company, and the water wasn't as salty, which can make a really big difference on a long swim. And the water was 18 degrees, so I managed to do this one in just over 7 hours. And yeah, so that takes me on to the next big challenge. So all of the swims I've been doing this year are part of a bigger journey, preparing myself to take on an even bigger, even more meaningful challenge. So in September 2026, I'll be swimming the Bristol Channel for Toucan Diversity. Because after my English Channel swim, Anne-Marie messaged me, I think half jokingly, but I couldn't tell, do you think you could swim around the Isle of Wight for us? Now, only a few people have ever done it, particularly where I don't swim in a wetsuit, but it is 3 times the length of the English Channel to be able to swim. And after some thought, I suggested something equally meaningful but more achievable at this stage in my progression, because I also worked out I'd need to quit my job to be able to fit in the training. And so in September 2026, I will be swimming around the Bristol Channel, across the Bristol Channel, goodness, from Porthcawl here down to Glenthorne, which is just over the Devon border. It's the 3rd longest route in one of the most complex and challenging stretches of water in the UK, all to raise funds for Toucan. Because Toucan's approach is one I really deeply believe in, and it's why I'm proud to dedicate this massive challenge to supporting their work. I'll also be doing a number of other swims in 2026, including a 30-kilometre swim down the River Ebro in Spain, a two-way Ullswater in the Lake District as well, and I'll be using these to also encourage people to donate to our fundraiser for Toucan. Therefore, so thank you for the opportunity to reconnect, for the work you all do every day, and for welcoming me back into the Toucan community in such a meaningful way. If you'd like to follow my journey, sponsor the swim, or just want to know some more, please do come and say hi afterwards if you'd like to chat, or hold your questions for the Q&A section. Otherwise, thank you.